Greetings again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of OSI Today, the podcast featuring news and views from around the Office of Special Investigations. I'm Wayne Amon from OSI Public Affairs, and in this edition, we continue our very special series, My OSI Journey, which showcases the diversity and inclusion of our command-wide members. And today I'm very pleased to be joined by Mr. Lee Russ, the recently named Executive Director with OSI's Office of Special Projects and the Air Force Space Force Special Access Program Security Director. Mr. Russ, welcome aboard. Great to have you with us. So glad you're able to fit us in your schedule.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the time. Excited to be here and share a little bit about my story within the organization.
Okay, sir. Well, let's if we can, let's begin by kind of turning the clock back just a bit, if we may. How and when did you become interested in law enforcement and subsequently OSI? In other words, how did Lee Russ's OSI career begin?
Yes, sir. We'll turn the clock back a little bit here. So I grew up in rural Ohio, and during high school, I was an active member of the Police Explorers, which is a subsection of the Boy Scouts of America.
Right.
So I was a police explorer with the Jackson Township Police Department.
Okay.
Ironically, that was through high school, but I rose to the rank of chief of that explorer post, which I often joke may have been my first introduction into a leadership role.
There you go.
There's an individual, patrolman, John Angelo, who is a great leader and mentor of mine, and someone who led the explorer post at that time. So I'll say John, he really challenged me to grow, live by a set of core values, and really made me fall in love with law enforcement and helping other people. And as you know, often people that struggle to help themselves. Mm-hmm. So that and, the occasional adrenaline rush likely cemented my drive to work in law enforcement. So at the time I was in high school, I would say largely unfocused or unchallenged with a plan to pay for college, or even if I wanted to go to college.
Right.
So the Air Force, they came knocking, and I was immediately interested. I had this vision or a strategy at the time that if I went into the Air Force for 4 years, I was committed to doing 4 years in a computer or IT field. I could obtain a bachelor's degree and get out. And then at that point, I would be marketable in federal law enforcement.
I see.
But little did I know that I would love the Air Force. It would take me almost 9 years to finish that bachelor's degree. And then that there was this organization called OSI that I would eventually create a relationship with. And I'll briefly mention on that. So yeah, I was first exposed to OSI during my first active duty military assignment in Minot, North Dakota. I was a computer systems operator. I routinely interacted with OSI agents that came to my workplace to pick up official messages, which were referred to at the time as audited messages.
Okay.
So I spent time trying to understand their mission, my level of interest, I would say. And I was definitely interested, and I closely tracked my career timelines. And at the first opportunity for me to apply, I cross-trained to OSI. So I was accepted at the time. I was a senior airman when I was accepted into OSI. I attended the OSI Academy in January of 2001. Mm-hmm. And at the time that I graduated, I was the youngest agent in OSI. It's certainly not the case anymore, but it was back in 2001.
That's a nice claim to fame, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So so I served on active duty for about 9 years. 5 years of that time was as an enlisted special agent. And then in 2006, I separated from active duty and was lucky enough to be hired back to OSI at the time as a GS-11 special agent.
Wow. Okay. Very, very good. And now, obviously, the rest has been history with your rise through the ranks. Now, Mr. Russ, were there any challenges that you faced once you joined OSI, and how did you overcome them? I would imagine, I talked to some people, when I ask them that question, they say, well, to learn how to speak OSI, in other words, they have their own lingo. Was that part of the maturation process for you as well?
Yeah, of course. That's within any, I'll say, military organization, there's a lingo that takes a while to get used to. I'll also say that I don't struggle might be a strong word, but it took a while to adjust to having the ability to run your own investigations, organize your own work schedule to be able to meet the timelines of those investigations. But there's another challenge that I specifically faced when I joined OSI, and it's not specific to OSI, but largely the Air Force. So as I mentioned, I served on active duty from 97 to 2006.
Right.
At the time, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was the policy, the U.S.'s policy on military service for non-heterosexual people that was instituted during the Clinton administration.
Right.
So, kind of in the Wayback Machine, the policy prohibited military personnel from discriminating against or harassing homosexual or bisexual service members.
Right.
At the time. So it essentially barred openly gay, lesbian, or bisexual persons from military service.
Right.
So it was in effect from 94 until 2011, which was my entire time that I served on active duty. So as a gay airman at the time, that was a very challenging time for me.
Right.
In 2002, 2003, I faced a retaliatory allegation that I'll say I assessed as potentially detrimental to my Air Force career.
Right.
So I worked closely with Service Members Legal Defense Network to kind of formulate a legal position. And I was lucky enough to stay in the Air Force at the time, but I'll say it was specifically because of two amazing supervisors I had in OSI that value my hard work and performance over my sexuality.
I see.
So I'll say I'll forever be grateful for those supervisors and not derailing my early career and allowing me to grow within this organization.
Right. Now, that kind of ties right in with my next question, Mr. Russ. Who or what has inspired you to do your best in OSI? I would imagine that support system that you received early on was very important.
Trying to collect my thoughts on.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, could you repeat the question, sir?
Sure, no problem. Who or what inspires you or has inspired you to do your best in OSI?
Yeah, so there's probably a long list here. I'll say for me, it's largely what inspires me to do my best in OSI.
Okay, that's fair enough. Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Challenges. For me, being challenged and going out of my way to push to the next level, I'll say, is inspiring.
Okay.
Sometimes life needs changes because things become stale or stagnant or predictable, right?
Right.
Not in OSI. I get that fulfillment from OSI because it challenges me to break the mold, and the ability to come up with new ideas is kind of exciting.
Sure.
I'll also say friends with OSI. Everywhere I've lived or found myself in life, I've been surrounded by great friends.
Right.
And the OSI family is no different. They've really helped me through tough times. They've celebrated me with good times. They've shown me, I'll say, the family or the love exists within the organization, and it truly is a family.
It sounds like for you, Mr. Russ, it's that love has been pretty palpable for you.
Yeah, it absolutely has. I mean, there's all kinds of things that inspires me within OSI. Stability, job security. I mentioned earlier the sense of investigating the unknown. I mean, every investigation or operation that comes through the door is different. So you don't get stagnant in your job. A great work culture, helping others. So there's an entire laundry list of things that kind of really inspires me, but those are kind of some of the highlights.
Sure. Next up, Mr. Russ, what has been the most gratifying part of your job with OSI, or has there been a lot of gratifying parts for you in your career?
Yeah, I'll kind of break it down by two areas. I think mission and people. Our mission is one of the main areas and probably the most satisfying or gratifying part of my job with OSI. We're the servicing investigative and counterintelligence agency for the entire Department of the Air Force. And as you know, includes the Air Force and the Space Force.
Sure.
So we're charged with safeguarding. One of the areas is safeguarding our technological advantage. And that's really where I've worked the majority of my career, is in counterintelligence and technology protection.
Right.
I've had the opportunity to see capabilities that were ideas, I'll say, on the back of a napkin, actually become capabilities that were delivered to our warfighter.
Right.
After the terrorist attacks of 9/11, I saw capabilities that were fielded in just a few years that would normally take 20, 25 years to field. They were fielded in just a few years.
Right.
And are now enabling our warfighters and providing information to decision makers. So that's been extremely valuable to me. I just, as you mentioned, I was just recently selected to serve as the executive director of OSI's Office of Special Projects.
Right.
And that position is dual-hatted. I'm also the security director for the Department of the Air Force Special Access Programs.
Right.
But quite a large role. We're in excess of 400 and probably about 430 people at 41 field offices across the United States, Hawaii, and Germany.
Sure.
So it's such a fun mission. We're really looking at the critical technologies, the rapid acquisition process, research and development, early partnerships with our partners in universities, research centers, national labs, our close partners within the defense industrial base, and acquisition leaders. So I get to work with all those amazing people, some of the smartest and brightest people you'll ever meet.
Right.
So that really kind of is the mission area that I'm very, very passionate about, and I've, like I said, devoted the majority of my career to. Right. But also the people. I spoke about it, I believe, in the last question. But my OSI family, working with friends and caring people, kind of makes all the workplace strifes or the workplace politics kind of go away. It fosters a sense of trust and among team members, which really kind of translates into job satisfaction, right?
Right, right.
So yeah, mission and people, I would say, is the most gratifying part of my job. I've been a special agent with OSI for 21 years, I believe now.
Right.
And it's still fun to get up and go to work.
There you go.
Yeah, my job.
They say when it ceases to become fun, well, that's when you should get out.
Absolutely, it's changed over the years. I mean, obviously, I started as a field agent, as a young airman in the Air Force, and now as a member of the senior executive service, I manage people and processes and lead the organization. But it's still fun to come to work. Absolutely.
Oh, definitely. I'm going to stick with the people theme if I can for a minute, sir. Now that you are the leader of hundreds of special projects folks at dozens of locations, from your perspective as the PJ leader now, why is diversity and inclusion foundational to the success of OSI?
Yeah, diversity and inclusion is really a topic that's kind of near and dear to my heart as I grew up in the organization. The Department of the Air Force is diverse in itself. And as we within OSI look to provide a service to the Department of the Air Force, we need to be diverse also, right? We need to be as diverse, if not more diverse. Mm-hmm. Diversity and inclusion is, I'll say, foundational to our OSI's success for the same reasons that diversity and inclusion are foundational to the success of any organization or business. Right. Creating an environment where individuality is acknowledged, differences are respected, and I'll say that collaboration is expected. All in the furtherance of building a stronger team to tackle that mission. Diversity and inclusion is essential to any business, and making people from different backgrounds and cultures welcome in the workplace, but also they bring different positions or different thoughts, right?
Right.
So with with diversity, having a diverse workforce, my workforce is within OSI PJ is extremely diverse across the obviously race and gender and religion lines, sexuality, but also just in the type of employees we have, and by that I mean special agents, security specialists.
Right.
Security control assessors working on networks, intel analysts, polygraph examiners. We have a significantly diverse workforce.
Right.
I think that brings a level of innovation and creativity, a different set of skills, and probably drives happier employees, increased productivity, understanding our customer, which is the Air Force. So yeah, diversity and inclusion is extremely important within our workplace.
Well said. Kind of dovetailing on that a little bit, if I may, what direction do you envision OSI going into the future?
Sir, this is a great question. I really think with the creation of the Space Force and the services that we provide to the Space Force, I believe in the future will continue to be technology protection focused. And what I mean by that is, General Brown, our Chief of Staff of the Air Force, kind of was quoted as saying, "Accelerate change or lose."
Correct.
That's really what we need to do is accelerate change, be able to deliver uncompromised capabilities, or we risk losing. Right.
Right.
Our current environment is shaped by declining resources, an aggressive global competition, high demand for rapid acquisition, rapid technology development, and fielding that to our warfighters. So I believe our national security is dependent on the CI community, the counterintelligence community's ability to rapidly adjust to those threats,
right,
and be able to identify, mitigate, and neutralize foreign intelligence and insider threats, or we lose, right?
Sure.
Makes
sense.
I think on the international front, our international security environment is getting more competitive and dangerous with the return of great power competition. As we continue to integrate technologies with our allies like we've never seen before, joint acquisitions such as the F-35, the Joint Strike Fighter.
Right.
We need to be able to integrate counterintelligence along the way because with our allies, a threat to one is a risk to all. As we look at these joint endeavors.
Right.
So we really need to focus on accelerating collection, analysis, and assessment of intelligence threats to inform and to be able to inform our acquisition decisions.
I see.
Because and I'll just kind of summarize, the speed and accuracy of those decisions, those acquisition decisions affect the cost of our acquisitions, the performance, and the schedule, which essentially at the end translates into military advantage and the ability to increase our national security.
I see. Okay, very well said. Now, if you can't put on your recruiting hat just for a second, if you could, sir, what advice would you give someone who'd like to join OSI?
Sure. This is a fun question because over the years, trying to encourage people, mentor people to come into OSI, I've seen some of the challenges where they have struggled, and I'll kind of break it down in maybe in the four general areas. As a former commander of OSI, General Jacobson said, performance matters.
Right.
So whether that's in college, if that's in working in nonprofits, if that's working in the private sector, if that's volunteering, performance matters. And then I'll say opportunities to mentor, to teach and lead are highly valued. Even as a young person, those opportunity, taking advantage of those opportunities show that you're a young leader in development,
right.
and that's something that OSI looks for. Independent thinkers, people that interact well with others, and are able to mentor, teach, and lead others.
Right.
There's some areas that are always valuable as you look into OSI. I often call them, technical studies, but I don't know if that's the right terminology. But acquisition backgrounds, contracting backgrounds, computer backgrounds, language backgrounds.
Right.
Those competencies that are challenging to teach someone, but also we often don't get people in the law enforcement field that are looking into those specific education backgrounds. So that's often helpful to our organization as we support the larger Air Force.
Sure.
And then I'll just say that grades matter, right? I've seen many of people go, get out of high school, go on to college, and just kind of do mediocre and end up with a degree, and then struggle to get into organizations like OSI that's extremely competitive. So grades matter.
Okay, very good. And so for the youngsters listening to this podcast, study hard. It'll pay off in the end, no doubt about that. Now, if we go back in time again just a little bit, if we may, as we almost wrap this up, if you could do it all over again, Mr. Russ, is there anything that you would change about your OSI career?
Wow. I honestly don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything substantive I would change.
Right.
I'll say there's pros and cons to every decision, right?
Right.
At times I regret not spending more time overseas, especially an assignment in Europe. But OSI has been very, very good to me.
Sure.
Like I mentioned, I served as an enlisted agent, as a civilian agent, most recently obtaining the grade of senior executive service.
Right. And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. I've completed a bachelor's degree while on active duty. The Air Force sent me to do 2 master's degrees, countless technical and managerial leadership courses. I've had the opportunity to travel the world and do a job that is really meaningful to protect our nation's most sensitive technologies. So I don't think I could ask for much more. And like I mentioned early on, it's been a fun ride. 21 years later, I'm still having fun doing it.
There you go. Before we wrap it up, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't believe so. I'll just say thanks for your time. I'm very passionate about our mission, about OSI, the mission that we provide, and supporting the larger Department of the Air Force. I really appreciate the opportunity to tell my OSI story, though.
Very well said, sir. Our guest has been Mr. Lee Russ, the Executive Director of OSI's Office of Special Projects and the United States Air Force and United States Space Force Special Access Program Security Director. Mr. Russ, thanks again for joining us today. It was great to chat with you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks to everyone.
And thanks to all of you listening for tuning in. For OSI Today, my OSI Journey, I'm Wayne Amon saying so long for now.